Hey, welcome along to Life Switch Online. It's a real honor to have you with us tonight. And can I just say, man, thank you so much for joining us. It really means a lot that you'd engage with us from wherever you are in the world. And what would be really nice if you want to, in the comments below, just say hi, let us know you're out there. It'd be really, really cool to engage and get to know you a little bit. So please, please, please comment below, say hi, and that'd be very much appreciated. But tonight we are in part 2 of our series, Cash Conversations. And I'll tell you what, I'm really, really excited for where we're going tonight and where we're going to go over the next few weeks, because I really do believe that what we're going to talk about over these next few weeks can set you up to have such an incredible financial future. It will help you find financial peace, and it will, if you embed it into your lifestyle, position you to be able to build a legacy or a financial legacy that can filter on generationally. So I'm so excited for where we're going in this series. But as we start tonight, let me ask you a question, is how do you tend to live when it comes to your money? Here's a way that a lot of people tend to live when it comes to their finances. They earn what they can, so they can spend what they can, and their attitudes then, I'm going to figure this out later. They're going to earn what I can, so I can then spend what I can, and I'll figure it out later. In fact, for a lot of us, it's not even earn what I can. The word that's probably more appropriate there is access what I can. How can I access more debt? How can I access more credit? How can I put more on Afterpay? I want to just access as much as I can so I can spend what I can, and I'm going to figure it out tomorrow. Come on, how many people is that your plan when it comes to your finances? What statistics show us is that in New Zealand, a huge percentage of people live on more than 100% of their income. That the average sort of person is living on 104% of their income. What that means is I'm earning $50,000 a year, but I'm spending $52,000 a year. That is not a good place to be, because slowly over time that debt's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And rather than being able to build a sort of financial position, I'm going backwards all the time. And the reason that happens is because we literally use what we've been talking about. We earn what we can or access what we can, then we spend what we can, and we try and figure it all out later. But what I want to put it to you today is what Cash would say to us, in the heart behind the series is saying, if Cash could communicate with us, what would it convey? And I think one thing that Cash would say is this: to be responsible, you must be intentional. If we're going to be responsible with money, we've got to be intentional with money. And the money might say, continue that sentiment, saying, I can go a lot further than you think if you're willing to think about where I go. Your money can actually go a lot further than you think if you're willing to put the brain time in and think about where that money is to go. So when it comes to your money, let me ask you this question: how responsible are you? You can tell how responsible you are by how intentional you are. Are you intentional with your money? Do you know where your dollars go? Do you have any idea where they're going? Or is the money just sort of coming in and going out, and there's a sort of an avoidance of responsibility? If I don't look, if I don't know, then I can't be held responsible. No. If we're going to be responsible, we must be intentional. And this ties in with where we went last week. Quick recap. Last week we said if money could talk to us, it would say, you're not the owner of me. We simply get the opportunity to manage money for this period of time. We know that to be true, no matter what you think about eternity, what you think about spiritually, that this is true, because when you die, your money's not coming with you. Whatever you've got in your bank, you cannot access after you die. The titles on your property are all going to change to someone else. Everything you own is going to get distributed. We're not really the owners of anything, but rather we are the managers of it. And if we're managing something, we're going to have to give account for how we manage it. So if I'm going to give account for how I look after my money, then I want to be intentional, because I want to be able to give an responsible account for what's been entrusted to me. And then we said last week, money would say to us, I'm not the meaning of life. I can contribute meaning to life. I can bring some meaning, but I am not the meaning of life. And finally, we said that money really is a means to an end, but not an end in and of itself. That we need money to achieve certain things in life. If we want to make a difference in this world, if we want to leave a legacy, we're going to have to use some money to do that. We might be able to build a school that people are able to go to and get educated. We might be able to use our money to help provide healthcare for people that need healthcare, to invest, to do research into the cure for cancer. We might be able to use our money to feed people who are in poverty or to support people who are nearing the end of life but haven't got the means to support themselves. We can use our money for a whole lot of ends, but money in itself shouldn't be that end. I love the way Mike Todd talks about this. He's a pastor, and Mike Todd says you can either chase paper or you can chase purpose as you go through life. If we're chasing paper, we're really making money the end goal of our life. But he says we don't want to spend our life chasing paper. Let's chase purpose, because money simply is a means to an end. Andy Stanley, he says that you can either use your money to get more stuff, or you can use your money to tell better stories. If we use our money just to buy more and accumulate more and get more stuff, that's one thing, and a lot of that stuff's going to end up being wasted. Or we can use our money to be able to create stories. And what he means by that is anyone who's given money, especially when it's been sacrificial and it's come at a cost, is when you've given money towards something, that even when you tell that story, maybe a year, 2 years, a decade, 2 decades on, it still stirs emotions in you because of the result of what happened, because of what you did with your money. And when we give our money away, it can really create these stories. And as we go through life, do we want to be able to tell more stories and better stories, or simply possess more stuff? I think inside all of us is that desire to tell better stories, not simply own more stuff. I think the desire inside most of us is to chase that purpose, not simply paper. So that takes us back to how people tend to live. When people earn what they can to access what they can, so they can spend what they can and figure it out later, do you know what? We often then have very little to show for it, do we? Because we're earning what we can, we're then blowing what we can, and we're going to figure it out later. We're going to get into trouble maybe financially, and it's a really difficult place to be. And so what we're going to do starting today and over the next 2 parts of the series is we're going to create a better way to look at our finances. But to lead us into that, let me take you to one thing that Jesus said, because I think that this is profound and this sort of underpins what we're talking about. Then Jesus said to them all, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me." Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, you've got to deny yourself. Well, what does that mean? It means we're going to deny things that we want. We're going to deny some of our appetites. We're going to deny some of our desires so we can follow Jesus. If we really want to follow him, all of us are going to have to live in a place where we are willing to deny ourselves. That really is the true cost of following Christ. And all of us who have made a decision to follow Christ will identify areas of our life where we know we have to deny ourselves in order to follow Christ, to do the things that he's calling us to do. And it's not always easy. Sometimes it's really difficult. But what I know from experience, and as I've talked to a lot of other people, is it's always worth it. But as we think about this in a financial point of view, we've got to say, hey, I'm going to deny myself. When we think through, if my goal in life is to access as much or earn as much so I can spend as much, that's all about me and my appetites and my desires. So if we're going to win financially, if we're going to create this financial piece, to build this financial legacy, what we've got to do is often deny those appetites. So let me just show you a really simple formula for winning financially or for succeeding financially, to find financial freedom and to build a long-term legacy that can impact not only your life but the generations to come. You have a look at this with me. It's really, really simple. It just says, give, invest, live on the rest. Give, invest, live on the rest. Come on, say it with me. Give, invest, live on the rest. We're going to give first, because when we give first, it shows that we honor God and we're trusting him. Then we're going to invest. What we want to do is invest a percentage of our income, because when we invest money, we actually can start to build a financial sort of foundation that's going to look after our future. So we're going to give, we're then going to invest, and then we're going to live on the rest. I can show you how powerful this is. Because I just want you to take a moment and think back of all the money that you've earned in your lifetime. I don't know how old you are. Maybe you're young and you've only been working for a little period of time, so that number's not much. Maybe you're in retirement now, so that number's significant because you've had a whole lot of years working in the past. What would it look like if you'd gone through all of your life up till now to give first, and then invest a percentage, and then live on the rest? Like, even if you're young and you haven't been working for long, if you'd invested for a season, you'd be in a much more comfortable financial position now than most people probably are because they haven't taken the time to invest wisely. You might have a few cool stories to tell of people you've helped or causes you've helped because of what you've been able to give. Maybe you're further on in life. And so if you're given first over all those years, imagine how much money you would have distributed to meet some incredible ends in this world, to make some big, big difference in this world. Imagine what your financial position would look like. Say you've been working for 40 years and you're able to put aside 10% of everything you've earned up until now into a big investment portfolio. How big would that portfolio be right now? How comfortable would life be for you right now? How much of a difference would you be able to make in generous ways that you never considered earlier in life because you put that money aside? It's a powerful thing. If we give first, we invest, and then we live on the rest. And so what I want to take a quick moment to talk about is just the priorities. Because when it comes to finances, we want to put first things first. Our priorities matter so much. So this is what Jesus said. He said, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these things will be talking to you. Jesus said this in the context of talking about money and wealth and finances. He said, hey, seek first God's kingdom. Seek first his righteousness, and all these other desires, all these other things you've got, they'll be given to you too. I think if money could speak to us, money would say, it's your financial priority that shows what has authority. It's the priority. It's what you give your money to first that shows what has authority in your life. It's what you do first that highlights what comes first. So when it comes to your money, where does it go first? What's the first thing you do when money comes in? Because that will show the priority in your life. It will show what has authority in your life. This is a foundational principle that we see right throughout Scripture. And that's why in this formula we say we're going to give first, because we want God to be our priority. Maybe you're watching this and you're saying, well, Clint, I'm not a Christian. I don't want God to be my priority. That's just silly. That's just crazy. Can I encourage you to just to lean in and listen with me and track with me on this? Because I think, even if you're saying, man, I'm not a Christian, you have a deeper sense of purpose within you than simply living for yourself. I think there's something inside you that says, I want to make a difference in this world. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a mark on the world. Well, I'll tell you what, you can do that. And one of the ways you're going to do that is by actually giving away some of your money to things that you really care about. So Christians who might say, I'm going to give a percentage of my money to the local church first and then to other things. What I just encourage you to do is track with us and think through the things that really inspire you, because you can give to that. And when you start to give to that, it's going to change your relationship with money for the better. It's going to help you find more joy, and more peace, more purpose in life. So let's just track with me as we go through this. But what I want you to do is help you understand that right from the beginning of time, there was this principle of first that God sort of put into the world in which we live. Let me take you through it. If we go right back to Genesis chapter 3, Cain and Abel. This is Adam and Eve, first two humans. They had two sons, Cain and Abel. Well, how did Cain and Abel's relationship go? Cain ended up murdering Abel. You think your family's dysfunctional? Theirs is more. Cain murdered his own brother. Well, why did he murder him? What we're told in Genesis 3 is Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. But what we're then told is that God was happy with Abel's offering, but not with Cain's. This made Cain jealous, and he eventually killed Abel because of his jealousy. What's the difference in their offering? It's not what they're bringing, even though that's different. Cain brought fruit. That's because he was looking after an orchard. Abel brought meat. That's because he was more of a shepherd or a farmer looking after animals. But the difference is here, that Abel brought the firstborn, Cain just brought some. God cares about the priority. It's the fact that Abel brought it first that made it powerful. Cain just brought some. As we continue through the scriptures, and in the law, that comes up a number of times, but one example is in Leviticus 27, where it says, every tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the trees, it is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. Well, that's making clear, is the first part, that first 10% belongs to God. It's his. It's addressed by a prophet, Malachi. It says, will man rob God? Yet you are robbing me. But you say, how have we robbed you? In your tithes and contributions, you are cursed with a curse, for you are robbing me, the whole nation of you. What God's saying here through the prophet Malachi is that the people are robbing God because they're not bringing their best to God. They're not bringing to God first, but rather they're bringing to God their worst and stuff that comes later. And he says, man, you're robbing God when you don't come first. And then we see in the New Testament, Jesus endorses the idea of giving first, of tithing, because he says, as Luke captures in Luke 11, but woe to you Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and every herb, and neglect justice and the love of God. These you ought to have done without neglecting the other. So he says, hey, tithing's really, really important. These things have got to happen. Justice and the love of God is above this. It's so much more important. But you've got to do these things without neglecting the other. That giving first has to be our priority. So that's why we say give, invest, live on the rest. We're going to give, invest, live on the rest. We're going to give to honor God and show that we trust Him. We're going to invest because we want to build that financial foundation for our future and for the generations that come after us. And then we're going to live on the rest. We're going to live within our means. We're not going to be one of these people that live at 100 and something % of our income. No, we're going to reduce how we live in order to live within our means. And what we're going to do next week is talk a whole lot about this section, invest. And what does it look like to invest our money and to use our money to build that financial foundation for our future. And then in the last week, we're going to get really practical and talk about how we live on the rest. But what I want to do today is we've talked about the principle of first, but I want to talk a little bit more about what it looks like to give first, to honor God with how we give and how we support other people beyond ourselves. And to do this, I just want to use what I've come to learn is different mindsets about finances. In fact, when it comes to mindsets on finances, where I really learned this was through a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in this book, the author talks about two dads. He had one dad who was, while he had a decent income, a really good income, had a poor mentality and was always poor. And then he had another dad who thought about money differently and had a rich person mentality and discovered that, man, the way they thought shaped their financial worlds to such a degree that one kept getting richer and one remained poor for the rest of his life. Now, I don't know how you've grown up because a lot of the stuff when it comes to how we learn about money has been passed down to us from our parents. Some of us grew up in families where money was never talked about. We're sort of just left to fend for ourselves and figure it out. Others of us grew up in families where we saw really poor financial decisions being made week after week after week after week after week. And so we thought that was normal, and we've started to do the same, and now we find ourselves really struggling financially. Others of us, we grew up in families where that thought more like the rich dad. And so we were able to establish from a very early age practices and mindsets that helped us win financially with money. So where you're at today is less significant. But what I want to challenge you to do is go, hey, as you move forward from today, how are you going to think and how are you going to act? Because we can't change what's happened in the past. We can't change what we didn't know. We can all look back and point to mistakes, but what we can take responsibility for is what we're going to do from this day forward. So let me just talk to you real quickly about 3 mindsets that we find in the scriptures. The first mindset here is the bag mindset. And this comes out of Haggai 1:6, where it says, you eat, but you do not have enough. You drink, but you are not filled with drink. You clothe yourself, but no one is warm. And he who earns wages to put into a bag with holes. The bag mindset says there's never enough. I'm going to keep putting my stuff into the bag. It's going to fall out the bottom and there's never going to be enough. When the bag's full, I'll be all right. I'm going to keep putting it in because there's holes in the bag. There's never enough. This is a mindset that most of us start out life with. There's never enough. I want to have more. I want to have more. I want to have more. I'm going to keep filling the bag. I'm going to keep filling the bag. But as I keep filling the bag, there's never, ever enough. You know what studies have shown us? Studies have shown us just how much money we need to be happy. How much money do you think you need to be happy? I'll tell you what the answer is. It's more. It's more. See, these guys did a survey and they found people that were earning $30,000 a year. They said, how much do you need to be happy? Well, I said, we need $50,000 a year to be happy. Well, then they started interviewing people who are earning $50,000 a year. How much money do you need to be happy? These guys came, we need $70,000. Okay, well, they asked, well, we need $70,000. Surely these guys will be happy. How much do you need to be happy? Oh, no, we need 95,000. 95,000 will make us happy. They asked me, we need 95,000. What do you need to be happy? 120,000. And this just kept going all the way up. What they found was in order to be happy, all we needed was more, because most people have a bag mindset. I'm going to keep stuffing it into the bag, but the bag's got holes in it and there's never quite enough. So that's the bag mindset. There's never enough. The next mindset is the basket mindset. The basket mindset says there is enough. This is what it says in Deuteronomy. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. Your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. Will be blessed. There'll be enough in the basket. In fact, this was a picture that Jesus talked about too. Because Jesus says, whatever you give, you will receive. Pressed down, shaken, and overflowing. Talking about a picture of a basket. And this, Jesus wasn't just talking about finances here. He was talking about everything. He's saying, if you give forgiveness, you'll find forgiveness coming back. If you give grace to the people that are around you, you'll find grace coming back. Shaken, pressed down, overflowing. And it applies also, if you give attitude, if you give like just I don't know, the way you talk is full of angst and anger towards people, you'll find you get that back, shaken, pressed down, overflowing. But it also applies to finances. Jesus says, well, whatever you give, you're going to receive. And we might not understand quite what this looks like in our day and age, but the people that Jesus was talking to, they really understood this concept, because they kind of knew what it was like to go and fill up a basket with a product, because they had to live off the land. Let me explain it like this. Imagine you're a wage worker being paid, say, just a little bit above minimum wage, working on someone's orchard, whereas your job to fill up your basket with apples, you'd take them over, you'd empty them probably onto some sort of trailer that's being towed by a couple of oxen. If you had to fill your basket up with apples, go and empty them out, go back, pick more apples, empty them out over and over again, how full, as a minimum wage worker, how full would you fill that basket? Most of us would probably fill their basket about 3/4, 80% full, with full enough so we could carry it comfortably and tip it out. We wouldn't want any to fall out the top, because that's just going to create more work for ourselves. We don't have to stack them in and try and do as much as possible, because we're getting paid by the hour. So we'll make it sort of just full enough so we can carry it, empty it, and go back to work. Unless, of course, you're working with some really pretty girls, and then there's one you're trying to impress. Then you might try and load them in so you can just show off a bit of that buff, bit of those muscles or something. But most of us will fill it about 75, 80%. But what's taught in the Old Testament is that landowners, in order to show God how thankful they are for his resource to them, was what they were instructed to do, was to leave the fringes of the property. Don't let your workers go and touch that stuff, but leave that there for the poor. And what a poor person would do is they'll take their basket, and imagine now you're someone who's poor, you're going to try to get some food, and this food is all you're going to have all week to feed your family. How are you going to fill your basket? You're going to put those apples in, you're going to shake it so they fall right to the bottom, then you're going to stick more in, you're going to press down, you're going to put more in till it's overflowing, and you're going to carry that basket home overflowing, because that's all you've got for the week. And so Jesus is painting this picture saying, hey, when it comes to God filling your basket, he wants to do it like that poor person collecting from the fields, not the hourly workers. He wants to push it in, shake it up, let them fall to the bottom, and have it overflowing. With a basket mindset, there's more than enough. So when it comes to finances, have you got a bag mindset, or have you got more of a basket mindset? There's never enough. There is enough. But can I put it to you, there's one further mindset. It's called the barn mindset. The barn mindset says there's more than enough. And this is what it says in Proverbs. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops, then your barns will be filled to overflowing. You're not somebody going to have a basket that's overflowing. No, you're going to have a barn that's overflowing. You're not going to have this bag that's never got enough in it. You're not going to have a basket that's filled up, shaken down, pressed and overflowing. No, you're going to be a barn that can be overflowing. That is the mindset that we want to adopt. That is the mindset that says there is more than enough. That says, man, my God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. There's more than enough to go around. And that's the mindset we want to build our faith to get to, and we want to train our mind to think it, because that's the mindset where incredible things happen when it comes to generosity. It's very, very hard to be generous when you've got a bag mindset because there's never enough. The basket mindset comes out of a place of generosity, absolutely. But the barn mindset is like where we're overcome with this idea of how powerful generosity is. Now, let me just pause here because what I want to just make really, really clear is what the Bible doesn't teach, that is that we should give in order to get. What a lot of people will you often hear people doing this, and they do it because they're manipulative and because they're not actually obeying God and what they teach. They will say, if you give this, you're going to get that. If you give $1, you're going to get 10 back. If you give $10,000, you're going to get 100,000 back. If you give a car, you're going to find yourself driving a way better car. If you give I'll tell you that's not true. That is not true. Is there situations and circumstances where that's happened in people's life? Absolutely. There's people that have given some and received a whole lot more back, no doubt about it. But our expectation should be, I'm going to give this so God can give me a whole lot more back. Do you know why? Because that's a I'm giving to get mentality. That puts me at the center. That's about my selfishness and my greed and what I can get. And that's kind of like I'm playing God. I'm trying to manipulate God into giving me a whole lot by giving something away. That's not how it operates. We don't give to get, we get to give. I'm giving because I want to honor God. I'm giving to God because He's given so much to me. I don't give so I can get a whole lot more for me. No, I'm going to give because I want to give. I've got an attitude that says I get to give. And honestly, even the people that say this, even the people that say you should if you give it away, you're going to get way more. They don't honestly to the core of them believe that when they say. And here's why. Because if those people really believe that, they'll be giving away all that they've got over and over and over and over and over and over again. But do you know what they don't do? Give all that they've got over and over and over and over again. They might be able to take you to a time in their life where they gave all that they got once. But they don't seem to be doing it anymore. If they really believe that, every time they got something, they'd give it away because they believe that's like the perfect investment plan. I can put 1 down and get 10 back. Wow, that's an incredible return. But people, even people that claim that, don't fully believe it. I tell you, that is manipulative. That's wrong teaching. That's not biblical at all, I promise you. Because we don't give to get, we get to give. So let me ask you, what mindset have you got? Have you got the bag? Have you got the basket? Or have you got the barn? When it comes to generosity, you can learn a whole lot more. If you go to this link right here, put it into your browser, bring it, it'll take you to a nice e-zine that talks a whole lot about investing financially here at LifeSwitch. But what I want you to see in that, it talks about the power of generosity in that. And then it talks about some different things that being generous does. Do you know that it's impossible to be greedy when you're being generous? A lot of us are born, a lot of us have got greedy hearts, or we're motivated by greed. And we don't like that about ourselves, but it's just there and it lingers all the time. Do you know the way to defeat greed is to be generous? Because it's very, very hard to be greedy when I'm consistently giving a percentage of my income, a percentage of what I earn away. It guards me from greed. Do you know what else? Another benefit is what Jesus taught is that where our money is, there our heart will be also. That we can lead our heart by where we spend our money. What this means is girls, you're gonna like me saying, if you're a young lady and you're looking and you're dating and you're meeting young guys and you're going out, what you want to do is you want to find a guy. If you really like the guy, you want him to make sure he's paying for everything, because where his money is, there his heart will go. If you really want to capture his heart, make sure he's paying for the meals. Make sure he's buying you nice gifts. Why? Because where his money is, there his heart will be also. And you know this is true. Because maybe you've bought stocks before. Maybe you've gone onto the NZSX and you've gone, man, what companies can I invest in? You never cared about share prices until you started investing in a few, and then you started watching their share price like a hawk. Or you didn't really care so much about property prices until you bought a house, or you tried to buy a house, and all of a sudden you're watching what's happening with the property market like a hawk, because where your money is, there your heart will be also. You can lead your heart. And this is a great, great resource to help you understand the power of generosity and what it has. But let's continue, because if Cash could communicate with us, I think Cash should also say this to us. Do you have me, or do I have you? You might have me in your back pocket, but am I controlling you, or are you controlling me? And the easiest way of knowing if we've got money or money's got us is to look at where our money's going. The easiest way to know is to look at where it goes. Is our money going on us, or is it going out towards other people? If I look at where my money's going, I'll know whether I've got money or in fact money has actually got me. And that's why this financial formula is so powerful. We're going to give first because I don't want money to have me. No, I've got money. I'm going to give first so money loses its grip on me. I'm going to control my money. I'm going to show it I'm in charge because I'm going to show it where to go. I'm going to give first because that honors God, principle of first, and it shows that I trust Him. So listen, this is where it's real powerful. In the Old Testament, people had to bring their first fruits, or they'd bring their firstborn lamb and they'd give that to God. That took a whole lot of faith. It doesn't take a lot of faith to give your 8th lamb because you've already got 7. But it takes a huge amount of faith to give your first one because when it comes to your first one, you don't know if there's any more to come. It's really easy to give, the last few apples that have appeared on the tree, but it's hard to give the first few because you don't know if that tree is going to produce any more apples. That's why God wants us to give first, because it shows that we trust Him. So we're saying, God, you are my provider. You are my sustainer. You're the one who's going to look after me. So I'm going to give to you first, and then I'm going to take the rest. I'm going to give first, then I'm going to invest, and then I'm going to live on the rest. Giving first means that our first is going to God. We've put our priority in the right order, and we're looking after the things that are most important. So here's where we land. We land with a 90-day tension, a 90-day challenge. And I want to issue a little challenge to you right here, right now. What I want you to do is this. I want you to identify a percentage of your income to give away and to do it for the next 90 days. It's 3 months. It's enough time to build a habit. It's enough time to actually see some things outwork in your life. I want to challenge you with all that I can to take this challenge, say, pick a percentage and give away that percentage of your income for the next 90 days. Now, maybe you're in a place you're going, I don't know how I can do this. I want to encourage you, pick a percent. Maybe you're already giving away a percentage. I know within our church community, there's a whole lot of people that are already giving financially into our church at a percentage of their income. And so my challenge to you might be, can you stretch that a little bit? Can you go a little bit further? If it's not hurt, if that's just happening real easily at the moment, can you do something a little bit beyond that to create a little bit of tension there? Because the power of this test is really this. I want you to create a little bit of tension. I want you to go, I want to give at such a point where, this is going to be hard. And then every time you go to give that, maybe your pay comes in, and so you go to transfer that money, to give it away, to send it to someone. It's going to be really, really hard for you to push enter. Or you're going to go, I'm going to shift that decimal point across one because I don't want to give so much. And what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to that tension that's inside you, that angst that's inside you, and just ask this question, where is this coming from? And then what I want you to do is I want you to give it anyway. And you might be saying, Clint, you're just doing this because church needs money. Can I tell you something? Look, I'm going to get paid no matter what you do. Our budgets were set at the end of last year for this year. Everything's in place. Well, if you do this or not, I'm going to get paid. Or everything that we're doing at church is going to continue whether you do this or not. This isn't about us trying to get something from you. No, this is about us challenging you to put God first and to take a step of faith. Because honestly, everything's going to keep ticking on just no matter what you do. In fact, if you're watching this and hey, you're not a Christian, you're saying, man, I'm not giving my money to the church, totally fine. Can I encourage you to outwork this in a different way? Find something that you care about. It might be poverty. It might be education. It might be healthcare. So many things out there that need resource to go towards it quickly. You find something that stirs on your heart. You find something that motivates you. Pick a percentage and start to give money to that organization or to that place because this principle is going to apply no matter where that money goes. So I can encourage you, if you're a Christian and you're engaged within a church, man, make sure it goes there. But if you're not, man, send it to a place that you're passionate about and that you care about. But let's go first. Let's give first and try this for 90 days. And here's why. This is the one place that God challenges us to test Him. What He says to Malachi is, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will be not room enough to store it. Come on, I want to encourage you to do this because I want you to put God to the test. This is the one area where God says, put me to the test. And I want you to have the confidence in him to put him to the test. So I'm going to bring the whole time. I'm going to take that 10%, whatever that percent might be for you, but tithe means 10, so you figure it out, what's right for you. But you take that and you invest it. Because honestly, for some people here, man, 5% might be a real stretch. For some people, man, it will be that 10% to make it a stretch. Some people watching this, honestly, your income is so big that giving 10% isn't even going to hurt you. There is so much coming in. I want to encourage you, 20, 30, whatever it might be, you figure out where that point is going to be a bit of pressure. One of the goals in my life is to get to a point where I can give away 90% of what I earn. One of my mentors said that to me once, I live on a reverse tithe. I give away 90 and live on 10. I thought, that's a cool goal. I'm going to get there one day. And it's exciting to try and grow in generosity. I want to encourage you to find something that's going to hurt a little bit. They're not hurt, but just cause that angst and try that for the next 90 days and see what happens. And I really do believe if we put God to the test, we will find that he comes through because when we take a step of faith, he meets it with his faithfulness. He says, test me in this, and I'll throw open the floodgates, and I'll pour out so much blessing. This doesn't mean if you do this in 90 days' time, you're going to be loaded and rich, have that nice house. No. Well, there will be blessings. It might not be financial. There'll be peace. It might be joy. It might be purpose. It might be looking at someone in whose life you've made a difference. You see, I know when I see what stuff that happens around our church, it fills me with so much joy because I know the way that I've sacrificed and the way that I've given to that. And I see things like what's happening in our kids' ministry. I see a baptism. I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I support this financially. I turn up at Camp Survivor and I see all the kids with the big smiles on their face having such a blast. And then I see them singing songs to the Lord. I see them learning about God's truths that they have never heard prior to coming to camp. And then my heart gets filled with joy because I'm like, I contributed to making this happen because I give regularly to the church and what the church is doing. I'm like, man, nothing beats what God's doing in that room right now. And that happens partly because I get to lay down some of my finances to see what God can do. And the joy that brings is huge. And the purpose found in that is incredible. And then also knowing that, hang on a minute, if I'm giving first, I'm trusting God to be in charge. Do you know that actually takes a weight off my shoulders? Because it puts it back on him. Let me just finish with one little story because I think this is powerful. When God was teaching the Israelites to tithe back in Exodus, and you can read this for yourself in Exodus 13, one of the things that God teaches, he says in this is that one day your kids are going to come and ask you why you're doing this. And imagine that in an environment, right, where people are working on the land and then their income is really coming from the animals that they can raise up. And your kid's going to grow up and they're going to see every time there's a firstborn sheep, that sheep gets, or lamb, they're born as lambs, grown sheep, that lamb's going to get murdered, that lamb's going to get slaughtered and be offered to God. It's not going to take a kid too many years to realize, hang on a minute, something's really wrong with Dad. In fact, the kid's going to get to a point where he's going to go, I know, Dad, how we can make so much more money by making one simple change. Dad, there's something wrong with your business plan. There's something wrong with the operation here. I can make us more profitable by making one simple change. That first sheep that you kill, just don't do it. Just don't do it. And what's told to the Israelites is when that time comes, I want you to pick your son up, pick your daughter up, put them on your lap and explain to them that you don't know this, but there was a time before you were born where our people were slaves in Egypt. And God, through a mighty outstretched arm, came and rescued them from slavery and took us into the promised land. And it's in that land now we can farm for ourselves and we can produce this income for ourselves. And so he then asked us to give the firstborn back every single time so that it can show that we trust in him and to remind us that he is our provider and he is our sustainer and he's the one who looks after us. And what I know is true is this. In your life, if you can give and support other things that are going on, one day your son or your daughter is going to come along and they're going to say, why do you do this, Mum? Why do you do this, Dad? And maybe you haven't got children, but there'll be spiritual kids that come along, children that your young people, or people younger in age, or younger in their faith that you're discipling and growing. They're going to say, why do you do this? Why do you give like this? And what we can actually do, it creates one of the most powerful moments for us to sit our son, to sit our daughter, to sit that person with us, stop them down and put our arm around them and say, hey, look, You don't know this because you didn't know me back before I knew God. But the reality was, before I met God, I was a selfish person. I used to live like this, and I used to do this, and I did things that would hurt people, and life was all about me, and I'd manipulate things, and I'd manipulate situations. But one day, I discovered there was a God who, with a mighty outstretched arm, reached down from heaven and drew me to himself. Who said, you're no longer a slave to sin, but I'm going to break the chains of sin off your life, and I'm going to offer you eternal life. A God that, before I'd ever done anything for him, said, hey, I'm going to send, I'm going to give my only son. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. That while I was still a sinner, Christ died for me. And God gave so much to me. And so now I just kind of think, man, the thing that I can do to honor God is every time money comes in, I'm going to take a percentage and I'm going to give it back out because I want God to know that my trust is in him, that my faith is in him, that he truly is my provider, that he is my sustainer. And maybe, just maybe in those conversations, whether with our natural kids or with our kids in a spiritual sense, we're going to change the way that they think. And it's going to have such a profound impact on their faith. I want to tell you, I want to have those conversations with my kids. I want to have those conversations with people around me. And I want to have those conversations with people in our church because I really do believe when we give, it's good for us. God doesn't want anything from us, but he wants everything for us. Now, as we finish today, I want to give you a few conversation starters this week because part of the series is I really want there to be cash conversations happening in homes and within families and across friend groups. So here's some questions. How is our current financial plan really working? You have a conversation around that. Have you got a plan? And how is it really working? And be honest. Come on. If you're going to be intentional, where do you want your money to go? If you're going to be intentional with your money, where do you want it to go? How much to give? How much to invest? How much to live on the rest? And we'll talk about that a lot more over the next couple of weeks. Maybe here's another one. What's your current mindset around generosity? Are you the bag? Are you the basket? Or are you the barn? And then last one there. At what level are we willing to take on this 90-day challenge? What's the right percentage for us? Well, what level are we going to go to? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it whatever it might be? You figure that out. About what level? Have a conversation around that. Because I really do believe if you have conversations around these things, if we talk about some of these things, they're not always the easiest subject to talk about, can often lead to a bit of conflict, but hey, a lot of conversation sorts that out, can actually help you have a much greater marriage, much greater family, much greater friendships, make a much bigger difference in the world, the way in which you desire and you want. So why don't you have a think about these questions this week? But as you just ponder, especially on this last one, are you willing to take up this challenge? And what does that look like for you? Can I encourage you just to listen to the song? Just to really let God speak to you. Ask him, say, God, what is it you want me to do? And I just want you to ask him. And I'm going to ask you to be quiet and listen to what he has to say. And I'll come back and pray for you. Enjoy this.
Come alive, come alive, come alive, dry bones. Come alive, come alive, come alive, dry bones. Awake, arise, inhale the light, and come alive, come alive. I'm gonna sing to you, dry bones, until you're covered in light, and the valleys bloom like a rosebud in the light. Hear the call to attention, feel the change in the air, for the ground is dry, but the clouds are overhead. Oh, I'ma sing it again. Come alive, come alive, come alive, dry bones. Come alive, come alive, come alive, dry bones. Awake, arise, inhale the light. Come alive, come alive. Are you waiting on heaven? Or is it waiting on you? For the Holy just like you were young. Oh, you do not have to live in chains now. There's a key within your song. So leave the past where it belongs, child, and take a leap into the light. Come find the freedom you were born for. I'm gonna tell that soul to rise, arise, arise, arise. Get up now, rise, arise. And I will sing it again. Come alive, come alive, come alive, dry bones. Come alive, come alive, come alive, dry bones. Awake, arise, inhale the light. Come alive, come alive. Come alive, come alive. Come alive, you come alive. Get up and rise. Oh, get up now, rise. Oh, get up now and rise. Ooh. And up from these ashes, let new life be born. And up from these ashes, we'll see flesh on the bone.
Hey, well, I really, really hope you listened to that with an open heart, with open hands to hear what the Lord had to say for you. But hey, let me pray for you and then go from there. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for every single person watching. I thank you so much that, man, they're just wanting to get to a place where they can use their money in a way to make a difference in this world. And Father, I thank you so much that you're a God that is so faithful to us. And you say to trust to test you with our finances. So I just pray as people think about what this 90-day challenge looks like for them, I pray you'll give them real clarity about what to do. That you'll help them find that point, that right point where there's enough angst, where there's enough hurt, where there's enough pain, that it just helps them ask that question. Man, what's causing this tension? What's causing this frustration? What's causing this willingness to stop? And Father, I pray you'll help us to honor you with our money. Lord, for so many of us, it's easier to honor you or to ask you to trust you with our salvation, to trust you with our eternity, than it is with our finances. And that makes no sense, yet it's a very real thing for so many of us. And so, Father, I pray for all of us, you'll help us get to that place where we have the faith to have the barn mindset, where we have the mindset that says, man, there is more than enough. And Father, I pray you'll help us to be a blessing to so many. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen, amen, amen. Hey, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you back here next week for part 3 of Cash Conversations.